What condition do we want our feet to be in when we walk? How do we want the parts of the foot to be oriented? It might be difficult to answer these questions if you're not familiar with these things. What can we really change about our foot? Last episode, we looked at going up on the toes. We used the idea of screwing the ankle to help make that more sustainable. Why is it that screwing the ankle helps? Before I answer that, I want to highlight the role that memory plays in correcting posture. In order to implement directions, ideas, and conceptions while performing a gesture or adjustment, we have to remember what directions or ideas we want to use. It may not take any thought to follow your habit, but it does take thought to break a habit. If you don't think you have a particularly good memory, it's worth considering that using your memory is to some degree a skill, especially when it comes to how you move your body. The more you use your mind and memory in activity, the better you will get at using your mind and memory in activity. So why does screwing the ankle help us go up on the toes? Screwing the ankle is part of reorganizing the foot and ankle into the close pack position. If you watched the series I put out on the legs, you may recall me talking about the close pack position of the foot and ankle. You may have also forgotten these ideas. The close pack position is the organization of the foot that causes the tendons, ligaments, and fascia to be taut, and the joint surfaces to be congruent. Serafian, an expert on the foot and ankle, gives us a concise explanation of the condition of the foot when it's in this configuration. The foot is now less flexible, more rigid, and converted to a more efficient lever arm. You might imagine that you want your foot to be flexible when you walk, but that is not the case. A flexible foot will not be a good lever. We can simply compare a flexible metal ruler with a rigid wooden ruler and see that the rigid one works much better as a lever. If we want to effectively propel ourselves along with our feet, we need our feet to be acting as efficient levers, which means they must resist deformation. They must be rigid. To get the foot into the close pack position, we need to make sure the heels stay out and the ankle is rotated in. Most people will find their heels tend to come in towards their center line as they walk, and that will lead to the ankle rotating out. These subconscious movements will take us towards the loose pack position, where the plantar fascia at the bottom of the foot is shortened and slackened. Going up on the toes in order to walk is primarily done by exploiting the spring-like qualities of our fascia. It's not a large muscular exertion that lifts us, though the muscles are obviously involved. We can essentially pry ourselves up off the ground by using the foot as a lever. And if the fascia of the leg and torso are taut, you will get a chain reaction of lift. Compare that with standard walking, in which there really is no lift of the torso. Instead, the legs are lifted, carried, and placed back down on the ground. When the leg plants on the ground, since the fascia is not taut, the leg does not spring you back up and along. Instead, it simply bears your weight, which works, sure, but will ultimately cause issues. We want to walk with the assistance of our fascia, not in a way that takes our fascia out of play. It's commonly said that your weight will be on the outside of your foot when it lands, and that you should transfer your weight through to the front inside of the foot as you take a step. But why would we want our weight to be on the outside of the foot when it lands? That's quite unstable. But that is how most people walk because their heels are turned in and their feet are not nearly as rigid as they could be. When walking is observed, that is what is typically seen, so that is how it's described. But it's not desirable. It's just how people walk when their feet are in the loose pack position and not the close pack position. We want to always keep our weight on the interior of the foot. Like we looked at last episode, we can even keep the outer two toes lifted to practice keeping our weight off the outside of the foot. Now let's look at a procedure that will help us start swinging our legs and taking steps. Stand in front of a wall with your hands against the wall. Make a preliminary adjustment to the torso to make sure the front of your pelvis and your lower ribs are not drawn forward towards the wall. Also make sure your rib cage is lifting away from your pelvis and not drooping down towards your pelvis. Take a small step back with either foot, but have your foot land so that the heel is not on the ground. Your torso should not move when you do this. The first thing to take note of is how extended your leg is or isn't. You don't want your knee to be significantly bent, so once your foot is back, see if you can extend the knee further. This will tend to push the heel down, and that's fine. The heel can be low. Just don't let it go all the way to the ground. Keep your iliacs high as you extend your leg. This part is interesting to record with a webcam or camera, so you can see the difference in your leg. From there, you want to go up on the toes of the front foot as well. You'll still have your hands on the wall to help make this a bit easier. Then move your torso forward, swing your back leg, and you'll take a step. The idea here is just to look at swinging the leg while it's fully extended. Most people, as we've seen, walk on bent legs, and so most of us have never really swung our legs while they're fully extended. By breaking down walking into its constituent parts, we can get some distance from our habits in walking and impose our conscious influence. There is plenty to look at in this small procedure. When you bring your foot back, can you keep your heel out and not allow it to come in towards your center line? Can you keep your leg pretty well extended as you step back, so that you don't need to extend it much after you've stepped back? Can you go up on your toes with one leg backward without arching your back? Can you swing a leg forward without bending at the knee? Experiment a bit, use visual feedback to inform you on what's happening, then join me next episode, and we'll continue to piece together a new way of walking.